Nation, Hebrew Kingdom Building.
Praise to the Most High. All right, y'all. We're continuing this journey through the book of MATITYAHU. Through the book of MATITYAHU, we're going through the Brit Hadashah. And so we will start off with chapter 20 and putting it on the screen. So everybody can see. All right, let's see here. See here. All right. So here we go. All right, y'all. So here we go. Let's see. Verse 1, it says, "For the kingdom of the Shamaim is like a landowner who went out early in the Boca to hire laborers for his vineyard." All right. So this chapter starts right off with as we're seeing here, this chapter is starting right off with a parable. So let's try to see, dig in this as much as possible. But so this parable is about a landowner. So when you think about the concept of a landowner is if you look deeper into language, a landowner is a husbandman, husbandry, or a master, a don, a lord. You see what I'm saying? That's why they call people who own different properties that other people live on. They call them the person who owns that property. They call them, even in English, they call them the landlord. That's why they do that, even in English. Because the owner of the property, the owner of the territory, the owner of the land is the connotation of him being an adon, a lord, a master, a husbandman. And we all know that Hebraically, there's a correlation with a landowner and a husbandman. Even in the word husbandry is associated with land ownership, the person who owns. So, they just want y'all to kind of understand that, because that's why even in the marriage ceremony and the marriage, even in the marriage ceremony, the ceremonial aspects of a wedding, Hebraically, you had this concept of the sandal and the land ownership surrounding the husband, because the husband acquiring a wife is associated with like a husband owning or taking more territory, taking more land in a sense. Um, so you see that with the sandal portion. All praise to the Most High for Yahuwah Baruch us with some marriages, and so we recently saw that. All praise to Yahuwah for that. Shout out to the newly married. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? All right, let's keep going. But so what we see here is that for Yahusha starting off at the kingdom of the Shamaim. So you notice that with this parable, it's starting off talking about the kingdom of the Shamaim. It's about this kingdom. It's not the kingdom of Yasharal. It's the kingdom of the Shamaim is what he's referring to. It's like a landowner who went out early in the Boca to hire laborers for his vineyard. Now, when he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into his vineyard. Okay. So these are people who was set apart to work the field, the laborers. Remember, Yahusha talked about how The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few, or the workers are few. Let's look at that real quick because it's probably associated with this. It's in yeah, it's earlier in Matthew chapter 9, verse 37. Let's look at that. Chapter 9, verse 37. Look what it says here. Look what Yahushua, this is what Yahushua said. Then he said to his disciples, look at this. The harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Ooh. And then look what it says here. Therefore pray Adoni of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. Remember, the Lord or Adon is the concept of the landowner. Therefore, pray the master or Adon or Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. Man, so now Yahusha's doing so now Yahusha is doing a parable. Now he's talking about how the kingdom of the Shamaim is like this landowner or this Lord who's sending out these laborers. Hopefully y'all are seeing this. This landowner who's sending out laborers. Then he said to his disciples, this is what Yahushua was saying to his disciples. The harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Who were the laborers? I submit the laborers were his disciples. He's referring to his apostles, his disciples. Therefore, pray to Adonai of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. Pray to the person who owns all the land to send out laborers into his harvest. That's huge. What is the harvest? All we got to do is read a verse up. It says, but when he saw the multitudes, talking about Yahushua, when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them because they were weary and scattered like sheep, having no shepherd. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So who are the laborers? The laborers are the shepherds. Who are the laborers? The disciples, the shepherds. Yeah. Because it was after this when Yahushua said to his disciples, the harvest truly is plentiful. That's referring to the multitudes who were like sheep without a shepherd, scattered. That's the condition of our people today. Scattered, lost, weary, poor. We destitute. We in captivity. Our people are downtrodden. Like sheep scattered without a shepherd. And the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Man, now keep that in mind, okay? And we're going to go back to the parable now. Keep that concept in mind. Now we're going to go back to the parable. in Matthew chapter 20. This was Matthew chapter 9, so Yahushua was already, going into these concepts. All right, verse 1. For the kingdom of the Shamaim is like a landowner, that's the Lord, who went out early in the boker to hire laborers for his vineyard. So you can even look at that when Yahushua went out and he called the disciples, said, come on, follow me. All right, let's keep going. Now, when he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into his vineyard. So he sent them out. And he went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace. Okay. So he saw others standing idle in the marketplace. That's interesting. And said to them, you also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right, I will give you. So they went. Man. Again, he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour and did likewise. Oh, snap. Oh, man, hold on. I forgot to bring this on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. All right, but nevertheless, he said to them, you also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right, I will give you. That's referring to pay. Whatever is right, I will give you. So they went. Again, he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour and did likewise. So y'all notice these are during the prayer times. So you had the Boker, but then you had the 3rd hour. You had the 6th hour, that's midday. And now you have the 9th hour, that's going into the Arev window of the prayer times. That's when the Arev oblation or the evening sacrifice around that time. And about the 11th hour, he went out and found others standing idle and said to them, why have you been standing here idle all day? They said to him, because no one hired us. He said to them, you also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right, you will receive. Man, look at this. So when Arev had come, oh snap. So now we right at Arev. The owner of the vineyard said to his steward, call the laborers and give them their wages, beginning with the last to the first. And when those came who were hired about the 11th hour, they each received a denarius. But when the first came, they supposed that they would receive more. And they likewise received each a denarius. And when they had received it, they complained against the landowner, saying, these last men have worked only 1 hour, and you made them equal to us, who have borne the burden and the heat of the day. Oh, snap. This is crazy. Oh, this is wild, Mishpacha. Y'all know we've been talking about this. Y'all know we've been talking about this, the heat of the day. Okay, so so basically they felt a type of way because the people that were hired at sundown got paid my bad, got paid the same as those who were hired and had to endure through the heat of the day. Man. They felt like they should have received more. They felt like they should have received more. Verse 13, but he answered one of them and said, Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what is yours and go your way. I wish to give this to the last man the same as to you. It is not lawful for me to do what I wish with my own things. Or is your eye evil because I'm Thub? So the last will be first, and the first last. For many are called, but few are chosen. So Malek Yahusha went really deep on the concept with this some years ago. And so, just as all the scriptures, there's layers to this. So nevertheless, the laborers that came at the 11th hour, who received the same wages that the laborers who were called earlier, that laborers represented different time periods throughout history. And so, oh snap. Hold on, that's tough. Oh, praise to the Most High. All right. Nevertheless, so the laborers represent different time periods. All right. So let's look at this. We're just trying to the best way to explain it. So Yahusha had sent out these laborers. Let's see. It says in verse 2. We'll start verse 1. The kingdom of the Shamaim, like a landowner, he went out early in the boker to hire laborers for his vineyard. When he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into his vineyard. Okay. So you had this group of laborers that were sent out early in the boker, right? Then he went about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace. He called them and they went. Then it says, then he went about the 6th hour and the 9th hour and did likewise. And then he went at the 11th hour and he went out and found others standing idle and said to them, why have you been standing there idle all day? And then he hired them as well. Okay, so this is the idea I submit. So Malek Yahusha brought out this concept with some other parables. I believe, can't remember if he used this exact parable, but I believe it's the same concept with this parable as well, nevertheless. And that's that each set of laborers represented a time in our history where laborers were sent out for the harvest to do the work of Yahuwah. You see what I'm saying? And so, for example, the laborers in the boker that was sent out, maybe that represented the patriarchs. Maybe that represented, laborers that were earlier on sent out for the flock, like Abraham, the patriarchs, Yaakov, Yitzhak, the list goes on. And then you had laborers that was sent out at about the third hour. Those were the ones sitting idle in the marketplace. And so I would try to think about who would be those laborers. Maybe those, that could have been maybe the time of the judges or the time of even the I wouldn't say the kings. It could have been a time of the judges. That could have been a time of like King Saul. the prophet Shemuel, something along those lines around that time frame. The people who were sent out for the people during that time. Then you had those who went out about the 6th hour and the 9th hour. Now the 6th and the 9th hour, that's midday. That's the midday window. That's the heat of the day. That is the heat of the day. So the 6th hour could have been like the prophets. You know what I'm saying? I can see that representing the heat of the day. The heat of the day represents the most pressure. The heat is hot. It's the sun is beating down on the people. Oh, I didn't even think about. I'm tripping about Moshe and them too. That could have represented one of the time frames. But the 6th hour probably represented the prophets, y'all. The time of the prophets, because that was during the 6th hour, the heat of the day. When in the heat of the day, remember that the heat of the day represents persecution, y'all. Pressure. See what I'm saying? A lot of pressure, persecution. That goes back to the and I'll give y'all some scriptural proof, because you see that in the parable of the seed and the sower. I was just talking to the Akeem about this. We go to Mark chapter 13, Matthew chapter 13, MATITYAHU chapter 13. Look at verse 1. It says, on the same day, Yahushua went out of the house and sat by the sea. Great multitudes were gathered together to him. So he got into a boat and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. He spoke many things to them in parables, saying, behold, a sower went out to sow. As he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places where they did not have much earth. They immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched. That's the concept of the heat of the day. When the sun is up at its highest point, that's when it's the hottest part of the day. It says, but when the sun was up, they were scorched. And because they had no roots, they withered away. It's referring to the plant, the plant that grew up sprouted up from the seed. So it says some fell on stony places where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. Now, when you go down, when Yahushua explains this parable, look what he says about the seed that fell on stony ground with the sun, and what the sun represents. Let's see. Verse 20, Yahushua said, but he who received the seed on stony places, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a while. For when tribulation or persecution arises, y'all see, that's the sun, that's the heat, that's the pressure. When tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he stumbles. That's the sun, the tribulation or persecution. That is indeed what the prophets went through majorly. It was tribulation and persecution. That was their whole lives, was full of tribulation and persecution. Read the prophets, Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, read them. That was their lives, y'all. So, keeping that in mind, I believe that because the 6th hour is midday, that's the heat of the day, that was probably the time of the prophets, the Nabi'im. And then you got the 9th hour, that was probably the time of the disciples, because they dealt with that. You remember, the 6th to the 9th hour, that's that midday window. That's about roughly from 12:30 to 3:30, generally speaking. I know that fluctuates based on the, daylight savings time, all those things. I know, but I'm just generally speaking,
It's roughly between noon and 3 o'clock, or 12:30 to 3:30. That's the hottest time of the day. And the apostles, they dealt with a lot of sun, a lot of heat, a lot of pressure, a lot of tribulation and persecution. Yeah. But then you have right at about the 11th hour, which I submit is this end time order of laborers that Yahuwah will call. Which is the time that we're in, Mishpaka. There's an order of laborers that were called shepherds. Laborers for Yahusha that have been called to do the work, to gather the harvest. It's when the sun's going down. It's not. They're not getting. It's heat, but it's not as much as what like the apostles are receiving or the prophets. So to the apostles and the prophets, it's like, oh, these guys got it easy. But nevertheless, they receive the same reward as those before them, those from before time. You want to know who these laborers are in this 11th hour, who these shepherds that Yahuwah called. You want to know who they are because once you find them, you want to join yourself to them. You want to submit yourself to them because these are the laborers of Yahuwah. All right, nevertheless. The issue that came up was that the laborers from the who were chosen earlier who worked longer, because the concept is that at sundown it's time for the it's kind of time to rest. In ancient times, laborers didn't really work after sundown, and the 11th hour is like right at almost sundown. So also they didn't have to do as much work as the apostles, as those before them. But the landowner decided to pay them the same. And so those who had to do more work were feeling some type of way. Why were they doing that? It's called comparison, y'all. Overly comparing themselves to other people. The landowner gave them exactly what they were supposed to receive. That landowner gave them exactly what they were supposed to receive. He just wanted to be the landowner just decided to be generous to the one that he chose on the 11th hour and gave him the same. It wasn't the other way around. But it's all in our perspective. You see what I'm saying? Those who were chosen in the Boker and in the 3rd hour and the 6th hour and the 9th hour felt some type of way that they should have received more. The only reason why they felt like they should have received more is because the one who was the laborer who was chosen at the 11th hour received the same as them. So their discontent came from comparison. They agreed for that. They agreed to the amount that they agreed that was a fair wage. They wouldn't have had no issue with it if they wasn't sitting comparing themselves to the other people who came after them. But because they decided to compare themselves to the people who came after them, they fell into discontent and speaking against the heads, the landowner. They became ungrateful for that blessing because they were too focused on what the other person was receiving. Hold on, he shouldn't get the same as me. Why is he getting the same as me when I work more? We got to be careful not to be comparing ourselves. Everybody in Yahusha is a laborer in a sense. Everybody in the Most High is a laborer for the Most High. There's some sort of work you're doing in the order. When you're doing the work, are you doing the work that the Most High set apart for you, or are you discontent with the lot that the Most High has in the lane that He has you in, so you comparing yourself to others? No, I feel like I should have what He has. I feel like I should be doing what she doing. I feel like I should have the gift Yahuwah that you gave to Cody so. I feel like I should have that gift too. And now because I don't, I'm discontent. I feel a type of way, even though I have all these other gifts that you've already given me. But no. I want her gift. You totally forget about everything Yahuwah been doing for you because you focusing on what somebody else doing, on what He done for somebody else. We got to stop comparing each other to each other. We got to stop that with that comparison stuff in the assemblies, Miss Parker. It's the laborers that's doing this. The people who's supposed to be doing the work of the Most High, that's who's doing this right now in this parable. He said the kingdom of the Shamaim is like this. Snap. What does that mean? One way you can look at it is that this is why I be in the assemblies. Yahuwah will do all this stuff for you, and then you'll be discontent with all the stuff Yahuwah did for you because it wasn't the same thing that He did for this other person. That your eyes is on the other person, your peer. Some new person comes into the tribe. They come into the tribe, they're flourishing. They're flourishing in gifts and in their aruka, and they doing well. They doing great. You doing well too, but now you discontent. You feel some type of way because this person came in way after you, and you feel like they shouldn't be doing as stupid as they doing. How's this person? They just came into the tribe and they getting all these visions and they're doing all this, and I barely be getting visions, and I've been here for years. But you gifted in all these other areas that Yahuwah gifted you in. What does the gift that Yahuwah have given to this new person have to do with you? To where now you're not content with what Yahuwah is doing for you and has done for you. We got to be careful with that. Let's keep going. Verse 16, so the last will be first and the first last, for many are called, but few chosen. Man. Many are called, but few chosen. And so another way just to look at this is surrounding the shepherds, the leadership of Yahuwah, like the disciples, the apostles, and things like that. Just the importance of not comparing. All right, verse 17. Now Yahushua, going up to Jerusalem, took the 12 disciples aside on the road and said to them, behold, we are going to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests and to the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and to scourge and to crucify. And the third day he will rise again. Wow. So Yahushua prophesied and let them know what's going to happen. Then the mother of Zebedee's sons came to him with her sons, kneeling down and asking something from him. And he said to her, what do you wish? She said to him, grant that these two sons of mine may sit, one on your right hand and the other on the left in your kingdom. But Yahushua answered and said, you do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I'm about to drink? That's interesting, given to know who Hebrew left behind, huh? The cupbearer. The cupbearer. Remember when Melech was talking about that, Melech Yahushua. He's the one who's able to take to take of the drink, to drink of the cup of the king. The most trusted, the cupbearer. One who's willing to die for the king, to give his life for the king. Yeah. That's the language Yahushua's using here when he's saying in verse 22, you do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I'm about to drink and be immersed with the immersion that I am immersed with? Man, that goes back. That goes back to the parable, y'all. That you have these laborers that are moving about during the heat of the day, okay? During the like the sixth and the ninth hour was probably the disciples. The sixth hour was probably the time of the prophets. It's in the heat of the day, meaning a lot of persecution, a lot of tribulation. And Yahushua just said that he is going to be persecuted and killed. He said the Son of Man will be basically given over to the chief priests, and they're going to condemn him to death, and they're going to deliver him to the Gentiles, and the Gentiles are going to scourge and mock him. That's persecution, y'all. That's tribulation. And then the mother of the sons of Zebedee was asking if her sons could sit at the right and the left hand of him. And that's when he goes into the concept of, are they able to drink the cup that I'm about to drink? To sit on the right hand of Yahushua, that's only the most trusted who's going to do that. You cupbearer. You the cupbearer. willing to give your life for the King, willing to take on what he is taking on. And we know the disciples indeed did that. We know that the disciples were persecuted. They went through tribulation just like as Yahusha did. All the disciples ended up being, except Yehukanan, all the disciples ended up being persecuted and martyred. Eventually, all of them, except Yehukanan. He died of old age. But he was still in exile and went through all kind of tribulation. If y'all, just do some studying on it, y'all will see that. You do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I'm about to drink and be immersed with the immersion that I am immersed with? They said to him, we are able. They were with it. They like, yeah. We'll do it. We're able. So he said to them, you will indeed drink my cup and be immersed with the immersion that I am immersed with. But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it is for those for whom it is prepared by my Ab. And when the 10 heard it, they were greatly displeased with the 2 brothers. So there it goes. The laborers out. The laborers got to be careful. To be in their car, make sure to be in their car, not to be, moving in comparison, moving in any way where they're trying to, be above one another and things like that. But yeah, the 10 were displeased by that with the 2 brothers for asking that, because it's like, can we be above the rest of the apostles? Verse 25, but Yahusha called them to himself and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who are great exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you. But whoever desires to become great among you, let him be your servant. And whoever desires to be first among you, let him be your slave or your servant. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. Man, so that goes into the concept of being a servant leader like Yahusha. That's the concept of being a servant leader like Yahusha. And so that's a very important concept. That when being a shepherd of Yahuwah, the mindset is not to be served. It is to serve. It's to give yourself for the people. Give yourself for the people in a sense. All right. Verse 29. Now as they went out of Jericho, a great multitude followed him. And behold, 2 blind men sitting by the road, when they heard that Yahusha was passing by, cried out, saying, have mercy on us, O Adonai, son of David. Then the multitude warned them that they should be quiet. But they cried out all the more, saying, have mercy on us, O Adonai, son of David. So Yahusha stood still and called them and said, what do you want me to do for you? They said to him, Adonai, that our eyes may be open. So Yahusha had compassion and touched their eyes. And immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed him. Man. And so, that was a powerful story to end that chapter when Yahusha had allowed these blind men to be able to see But y'all already know there's always, different ways to look at this as far as layers. And another way to look at this is that because what caused Yahusha to even acknowledge them, and to when you read it, it seems that it was them crying out. They cried out. They said, "Have mercy on us, O Adonai, son of David." They cried out. And it's the crying out that'll cause the blind to be able to see. They just wanted their eyes to be open. They just wanted their eyes are like the eyes of understanding, the ruwako eyes, to be able to see, hear, and do. To have understanding, to be able to see. How will you know? How will you know who are Yahuwah's shepherds if you're unable to see? How will you know if you're still blind ruachly? Seek Yahuwah, ask him to open your eyes that you may see. Who are his people? Who are his shepherds? And then when he shows you, you want to make sure you join yourself to them people. Because that's the time that we're in. But all praise to the Most High, told out to Yahuwah and Yahusha. Let's see, did anybody have anything before we close? Let's see here. All right. Oh, my bad, hold on. I just saw your message. I'm glad you went on and did that. Toda Rabah. All right. Yirmiyahu, he said, Kafel Hudim, when it is due, it is significant to this verses, and Yahuwah went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people. Yeah, there may be some significance to that, actually, Yirmiyahu. You know why? Because also the leadership were also called pillars. There were times in the scriptures where I know a Kepha was called a pillar, and if I remember right, one of the apostles, that was kind of a term for leadership as well. Amud, pillar. So yeah, I can see that me having some sort of possible correlation there. The pillar of cloud by day, pillar of fire by night. Let's see. It says, so the last shall be first, and the first last. For many be called, but few are chosen. Hallelujah. That's it. That's real. That's real. All right. I'll give it a few more seconds. If anybody has anything, just raise your hand. You have anything before we close? Amudah, she said, when you were talking about comparison, it reminded me of this teaching that Asayahu did. He was saying how you even must look in your secret place within to see your intentions to those people that you compare yourselves to. Oh, that's deep. That's deep. I'll pray to the Most High. Abiyahu, were you about to say something?
Hold on. Oh, I didn't realize I was unmuted. No, sir. I was cleaning my phone.
No problem, no worries. YouTube. All right, y'all. Well, if there's nothing else, y'all have a Lila Thub. Love y'all. Machava. And Lakam La Shalom. All praise to the Most High. Lakam La Shalom.
Machava. Shalom.
Machava.
Recording
Rebirth of a nation. Hebrew kingdom building.